Well, hello, gang. Welcome again to this episode of The Ministry Show. We're going to continue to talk about placement, but this time we're going to be talking more about tools that can help you with placement. We mentioned last week, and if you missed that episode, just go back and listen to it. There's this art that is at play about placing people. And sometimes the thoughts in our mind are like, oh, I need this person here. They might be better at that, but I really need them over here. Those kinds of
Right.
things. So we want to talk about tools that help with placement. How do we find people? What's our mindset when it comes to placing people? What's the most important aspects of placing people, and so on. You can see the show outline right there. But tools that help with placement. Man, I wish there was one tool that I could recommend and that it would be all your placement problems are solved. Wouldn't that be nice, Pam?
It
Just
would.
so, a big part of ministry is seeking, finding, and developing leaders from within your ministry. As we do that, it's a big job. It becomes easier if we concentrate on placing people well. Jesus kind of is the model of that ministry because he had a bunch of disciples,
hmm
and from the bunch, he hand selected 12 that became apostles. And so not everybody can do everything. I like to say that the number one tool for placement is your own mind. You need to understand that people aren't going to come out of the woodwork just to be on your ministry team, that we have to go out and find them, as this title slide says. And then the upfront announcement kind of a thing, that's probably doing you more damage than good. Because let me ask you this question: do you want to join a losing team? Who wants to be on the losing team? Raise your hand. Nobody, right? And so when we make these pleas from up front, basically we're screaming to people that we're losing. And so we need you to help us win, but we're a losing team. I mean,
Right.
it's tough enough to recruit, but when you have to overcome that first, it's even tougher. You, as a ministry leader, you need to seek people, find them, and develop them. That's what placement is about. So we spent a bunch of time last week talking about faithfulness, that foundational aspect. But there are other things that come into play when we want to place people properly. And you can see a list of them there. You may come up with two or three of your own factors that are more important, but skill set certainly matters. Talent matters. Money matters. Not how much money they have, but do you have the resources to equip them and train them properly? And any group that has people has some level of politics. The church is no different. Some churches have more politicking than others, some have less, but that does come into play. So, in your mind, you have to know and understand that there are a bunch of factors that come into play when it comes to placing people properly. But with all of that said, what I'm suggesting that you do as a ministry leader is determine what are the factors and in what order of importance. Faithfulness is number one, but other than that, depends on the role and responsibility first. But then, secondly, it depends on things like skill set and so on. We have to match the people with the role and the responsibility. We talked quite a bit about faithfulness, as I mentioned last week. And so, what I want to highlight here is when it comes to integrity, integrity of faith really is about this idea of not putting on airs or pretense. And I know that we're all hypocritical to some degree, but you're not hiding from your hypocrisy. You're authentic. That has become, especially in our world today, so much more valuable in ministry because there have been news reports and newspapers, and the media is so fast today that if somebody slips a little bit, everybody hears about it. That integrity, the no pretense or hypocrisy, is something that you have to consider as you move people into ministry. Then a little bit more of review from last week, but we can find faithful people and you can notice them, but we can create faithful people as well. And it's our responsibility as pastors and church leaders, if we're going to build ministry teams that thrive, ministry teams that last, ministry teams, they get a lot done. What I found is I have to teach faithfulness. I didn't start with that mindset. I started with the mindset of everybody should be faithful.
Right.
And that served me well for about a half a day. Instead of trying to change everybody to my way of thinking, I just decided that I'm going to start training people how to be faithful, how to be dependable, with having clear expectations. And then when those expectations weren't met, hold people accountable to those expectations. That's how I trained people. And many, many people in my ministry over the years, it helped them not only in their ministry role, it helps them in their life. And so it's a great investment to making people, you as the leader, lay out that clear expectation. But then when it's not met, you have to have a conversation with the person, find out the what, whys, and wherefores, not just that they were late or just didn't show up, but make a contact with that person. Hey, what happened? Was there some need that you had that you didn't know? No. Well, let's just say they're flaky. You got to let them know in a kind way, speak the truth in love kind of way, that flakiness doesn't work for thriving ministries. And you're on a team where people are counting on you. We all make mistakes. That's not what I'm talking about. But can we count on you to show up on time next time? Well, 99.9% of the time, the answer to that is a resounding yes. And as I mentioned last week, it actually helps people feel better because they've kept their commitment. There's a self satisfaction to that really can't be met any other way.
Yeah, it's good.
The other thing, as it relates to your mindset with regard to placement, is to determine what's important to you. Sometimes we're always trying to think of what's important to everybody else, and we're trying to mold ourselves around that. But you're going to do a much better job if you determine, well, what's really important to you, and then look for people who have that same value, because you're going to fit together like a hand in a glove. Things are going to be much easier. There's going to be a predisposition towards your philosophy and so on. It's just really important for you as a leader to understand what's important to you and then look for people that have that kind of bent.
Right. Yeah, when we think about what we're predisposed of, we can identify characters that we like about ourselves, those that we don't like. It's a really good self-examination of, these are things that I really like. These are things I don't like. And we need to be aware of that and start with our own preferences. But then I don't think that that disqualifies other people. Do you, Chris, as far as you want to place people and not disqualify people based on that?
Yeah, and I hope I didn't put too much emphasis on that they have to be like me or whatever.
Right.
No, I need to be able to work with all kinds of people, but you got to start somewhere. So if you start with, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and then you can add to that. So
Yeah.
So there's mindset tools and there's super good software tools as well.
Right.
This is your baby.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a little biased here with Church Community Builder because I've worked with several others in the past and years of ministry and absolutely love our software. One of my favorite parts as far as getting people in the right positions and passions and gifts is the MyFit area of the software. And that helps you to identify people's strengths and passions and gifts. So as you are creating positions for people to serve in, you not only get to match them in that, but what I found, Chris, over the years is when people are serving in their gifts and their passions, there's longevity there. They stay, they feel fulfilled. And that's one of the areas that we get to do with this tool. So it has saved me hours, if not weeks and months of trying to find the right people. It's a great tool. Another one of my favorite, I call it the gold of our software, is processes. Because not only are you able to get people in the right gift set, but you can do an application process, background checks, anything and everything really you need to stay connected. And it's all about staying connected. You don't want to just put people on your team and then not build that relationship continually. So having that available is amazing. I love it. Another thing that we have within the software for volunteers is scheduling. What I love about it, Chris, is that I used to spend back in the day, I'd spend a lot of time on Friday afternoons calling everyone or sending emails. And with this software tool, once they accept that scheduling position, then they're going to get a reminder sent to them, either email or text. Love it. It's brought back a lot of my time. Another thing that you can do to put people in the right gift set is spiritual inventory tests. We've probably all taken them. StrengthsFinder, there's ServeWire, there's a lot out there that are great. But be careful that you don't stereotype people based on that test because we've talked about this, I think, Chris, before, and that sometimes when you take those assessments, they may not be completely accurate. Someone may not take the test correctly or whatever it is. So look for verification in real life. If somebody feels like they're gifted in a specific area, maybe they are bent to that, but they haven't had the maturity like we talked about last week with Peter, or maybe they haven't had the right leader to kind of guide and disciple them in that area. So look for verification for sure, and don't just rely on those gift tests. Assessme.org and Ministry Vitals are great. They integrate with our software. They've been very successful for people, but again, make sure you're verifying that with people.
Yeah, just one more tool that I want to mention, and this is very simple. It's no cost. Observe people in your own ministry that do really well at fill in the blank.
Right.
Usher, greeter, hospitality of some type, or children's ministry. Ask them for 10 minutes of time after the service. Sit down, talk to them about them, and figure out what makes them good at what they do. Let's say I was talking to you, Pam. Pam, I noticed that you have a real intuitive sense of talking to people. Man, you can get deep with people really quickly. Tell me about that. How does that work for you?
Right. Yeah.
And so you have probably right within your own ministry, if you talk to 3 or 4 people, you can find out very quickly by just asking them. We think this ministry stuff is all out there in the cloud somewhere. It's like really basic. The point being, there's tools that are available that you can create quickly if you'll just go ask people.
Right.
Now, the action item for today is really, again, focused on yourself, not others in your ministry. Because when you understand yourself, then you're going to be able to do better in ministry. If you've not done so, or you've not done so recently, just go find a few assessments. There's several online that are for free, but assess yourself, not with one tool, get 2 or 3 tools. I know you got to sit down and answer some silly questions, whatever. And I know some of you are definitely smart enough to make it tilt the way you want it to tilt, especially if you've done it before. So don't do that. Just honestly, what is that? So you can Google ministry assessment tools and you'll find a lot. But here's something to keep in mind, especially when you're administering an assessment to somebody that doesn't have any background or that doesn't have a baseline. Often a single assessment will type out improperly, or portions of it will be in error, or maybe even the whole thing. So we always recommend you do at least 3 and then look for congruence among the multiple assessments before you pigeonhole somebody into, oh, they're going to make a really great fill in the blank. And then also, when it comes to assessments, don't let the assessment go against your intuitive sense or just common sense.
Right.
Because if you're praying, you're engaged with the Spirit, and you're recruiting people and wanting to place them properly, and you get a prompting, I'm going to take the prompting of the Holy Spirit way before I'm going to take the answer to some spiritual assessment.
Right.
You know?
One thing I think of looking for gifts, especially you had mentioned that last week about the awkwardness of that middle schooler, that junior hire that Peter started out as. And don't overlook those kids to serve in ministry. Because I was thinking, I got an email from a kid the other day that we saw something in him in the area of media and that desire for that. And so I put him in children's ministry, got him a great mentor. I can't teach him that stuff, but found someone who would mentor him. And today he's writing music. He's doing so much with technology. And I think that was the beginning of it when he had that opportunity as an 8th grader to be mentored by someone older, more experienced. And now to see him blossom in that gift it's rewarding.
Yeah.
So today we wrapped up on the tools of placement and we've covered recruiting and training. And next week we're going to be talking about how to support all those great people that are going to come onto your teams and so that they will continue serving and they'll feel appreciated.
Yeah. By the way, this is one of my favorite subject matters because it's kind of counterintuitive and I better not spill the beans now, but man, I'm looking forward to next week. So
yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, You may have already interacted with one of our sponsors, Aware3, who just really helps you in this digital world that we're in, using digital technology to connect people. And here's one thing I know: you can't get a disciple if they don't connect first. And Aware3, they're just among the best in class for getting people connected, especially digitally,
Yeah.
which how many of us use our phones for everything? These tools that you see from our sponsors, not only Aware3, but Catalyst Church Creative, You Only Die Once course, and North Coast, man, they're here to help you. We vetted them. Man, they are
The top.
the cream of the crop. And then finally, just real quick, this build gathering that we're doing, it's all about compelling content, some things that we're going to talk about that hopefully will stretch your mind a little bit, maybe nudge you towards the edge of your comfort zone. For some of you, it'll push you beyond your comfort zone. That's going to be a good thing. We want to get your mind and your heart just really connected and reconnected, or continually connected to the calling that God has on your life. And then we're going to have that day 2 is just about candid conversations with others that are doing same or very similar ministry role. You're going to be able to take the deep dive, get questions, answers, and the real deal stuff around ministry. So you can go to buildgathering.com to check that out. Man, we'd love to see you there in November. That wraps it up for this episode of the Ministry Show. As I think we say often, I hope we do, because we're so thankful that you've chosen to spend time with us, and we want you to be able to glean what will work for you, build a ministry that thrives, and have your best year ever. So God bless you. We will see you next week.